Welcome back everyone, Oz here, and today I've got some r/AmITheDevil for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the posts, giving you my own opinion, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Am I the asshole for having my daughter live with her mother until her mental health is better? I, 48 male, am married to Sally, 45 female, and have a stepdaughter, Emily, 7 female, as well as a daughter from a previous marriage, Cassidy, 15 female. Cassidy was diagnosed with depression a month ago. After finding out about her diagnosis, Sally and I agreed it'd be best for Cassidy to live with her mother, Clara, 47, full-time until her depression is under control, as we fear she will cause Emily to also develop depression. Cassidy wanted to continue her usual back-and-forth schedule, but I said that's a hard no, and that I have to protect Emily. I reminded her that I love her, but for everyone's sake, she'd be better off staying at Clara's. Clara has called me many names over this and claims that I'm abandoning Cassidy when she needs me the most. I understand the frustration, but it's my duty as Emily's stepdad to look out for her, and I feel like being around Cassidy will make her depressed as well, not to mention that she can come back when she's mentally well. My wife agrees with me on this, but Clara still thinks I'm a horrible father. Am I the asshole for wanting what's best for both of them? Depression isn't contagious. It's usually a severe hormone imbalance that's uncontrollable, and the one thing that certainly is not going to help the depression is isolation, othering, being abandoned by your father, felt like it's your fault, and just a variety of other things that this situation is going to cause, and it's just going to make Cassidy feel a lot worse about her condition and make it feel like it's her fault, which is the last thing that you want to do. To me, if I were to put a little tinfoil hat on and start making grand conspiracies, I feel like this is the father's way to finally just get rid of his daughter and live the life with his new wife and new stepdaughter who's still fairly young, and it's a second chance and second lot at him to be able to essentially raise this daughter a different way, outside of the grasp of his previous ex-wife. I can't even imagine having a child and just deciding up there and then, yeah, because you have depression, I just don't want to see you anymore until you're better. And like, it's because of that logic that I really feel like he's just looking for an excuse to kick Cassidy back to Clara and call it good. I don't know, am I far off on this one? Do you think that that's a bit too far in the tinfoil hat direction, or do you think I might actually be onto something here? Or what do you think? Because I mean, it's obvious he just doesn't know what he's talking about because depression isn't contagious. So it only leads me to believe that he's just trying to find excuses. Like, it bothers me for Cassidy's sake, there's a good chance her father is just abandoning her in her time of need, and that's just going to do a lot of damage down the line. So don't be surprised if a few years down the line, if your daughter wants nothing to fucking do with you. I know if I was your kid and going through a rough time like this, I certainly wouldn't fucking want anything to do with you, because this is just egregious. This is sickening and sad. Like, why would you do this to your own kid? Would I be the asshole if I demanded to know who reported me to HR? I'm in my early 30s and male. In our office, I'm known as a bit of a jokester. Nothing mean, and I don't go out of my way to prank someone or hurt anyone's feelings, but I have plenty of jokes and give lots of silly nicknames. There's a newer woman in our office, and she's in her early 20s, and she has a 3-year-old. They live in an RV park a few miles away from work, and I've nicknamed her RV Reba. I ain't seeing any harm, it's just a silly nickname. I've given silly nicknames to most of my coworkers. If anyone complains about it, I just explain that I don't mean anything by it. It's just a silly thing I do, and there was no reason for them to be offended. Well, RV Reba wasn't thrilled with the nickname, said it was insulting, but I explained it wasn't intended to be. It was just something silly that I, came up with. She asked me to stop using it. I don't use it around her much anymore, but I think it's just a silly thing to get upset about. So I still use it around others. Well, someone reported me to HR. I got called into a meeting this morning and given a written warning to stop harassing my coworkers. I don't see this as harassing at all. They're silly nicknames. I asked who reported me, and they said it was not just one person, but multiple complaints. RV Reba and a few others were getting coffee, and I wanted to know who reported me. RV Reba said she didn't know, but was glad they spoke to me about it since I wasn't listening to them asking me to stop. I think it was probably her and one or two other coworkers who can never take a joke. I want to know exactly who it was though. A few coworkers said I'm already the buttface and should let it go, but I really want to know who reported me. Would I be the buttface if I demanded to know who it was? Dude, it sounds like you just never fucking left high school. Like, grow up. You're in your 30s, dude. Like, this is just behavior that you would find from a high school bully. What are you doing? And in general, just like as a side note, if you meet someone who just screams they never left high school energy, just stay away from them. Oftentimes they're going to be extremely toxic and just not worth it. See, I made this mistake when I was in my early 20s and did not realize the still in high school behavior because I was kind of just out of high school and didn't realize this wasn't how normal adults need to function. So when meeting someone who acts like this, at first I thought it was normal. But if you got someone who's like doing shit like this and making a villain every fucking week out of someone random who just slightly did them wrong, that's the kind of behavior you gotta run from. Like, I cannot stress enough that if you encounter someone who just really seems like they never left high school, it's probably best just to leave them in high school, alright? It'll be so much less drama for you down the line. I cannot stress that enough. Am I the asshole for telling my parents that they ruined my New Year's celebration after they kicked my husband out over a joke? I've been married to my second husband, Mike, for 4 years now. He's a jokester and loves to crack jokes all the time. He especially likes to joke with my brother Ethan and his wife. Ethan used to be okay with it till he started complaining about Mike taking it too far with his jokes. Now, some context about Ethan. He and his wife couldn't have kids, so they adopted a boy, Joey, 2 years ago. Mike has been making silly, lighthearted jokes that are involving Joey's bio parent. What the fuck? As a way to mess with Ethan and his wife. What? I already talked to Mike and I tell you that he 100% means no harm and he was just trying to get them to react. So fast forward to New Year's Eve, my parents hosted a big celebratory dinner and Ethan and his wife came. While we were eating dinner, Mike decided to tell a knock-knock joke to Ethan. He went, "Knock knock." Ethan laughed and said, "Who's there?" Mike replied, "Joey's bio parents." Then he bursted out laughing. Silence took over and Ethan's facial expressions changed. His wife called Mike an idiot, to which Mike replied, "Hey, relax, it was just a joke." An argument ensued and dinner was paused. My parents suddenly told Mike to leave, which I thought was too harsh. I tried to speak to them and to get them to calm down, but Mom insisted that Mike leave. We left and Mike was complaining the whole time about how they overreacted. I called Mom later and she told me Mike was out of line with his hurtful jokes about this touchy topic and told me I was wrong for defending him and saying he was just joking. She said he ruined New Year's for the family, but I told her it was her and Dad that ruined New Year's celebration for escalating the situation and kicking him out. I told her he could talk to them, but again, they were the ones who ruined New Year's celebration. She called me delusional for making this statement and hung up. We haven't talked to them for days. I tried contacting Ethan, but no response. By OP's own admission, he was telling jokes to get a rise out of them and decided to target an adopted child's biological parents. That's already going to be an extremely touchy subject, because it's already fucking bad enough that a lot of parents don't see adopted children as being children of the parents that adopted them. And I know that I've stated this before in previous episodes, but the best comparison that I've seen is seeing how a family who has adopted a child talks with their child and they firmly state, "That is my child." But if you ask someone who's performatively pro-adoption, oftentimes they will still refer to them as being adopted or othering them or not referring to them as being part of the family. So that being said, the fact that Mike was just, by OP's own admission, trying to get a rise out of them out of a joke that is essentially just, "Knock knock, who's there? Your child's not yours," and then bursting out laughing, that's fucked up and just gross and sad. And it's even worse that OP is not only complicit in this behavior, but can't even begin to fucking comprehend that, hey, maybe we're in the wrong and we fucked up, but no, instead it's our parents ruined New Year's Eve because they weren't happy with the joke about making fun of the fact that my brother has an adopted child. And you think you're in the right here? Am I the asshole, 24 male, for telling my sister, 27 female, not to order dessert? I went out to eat with my sister Maggie yesterday. We live a few hours away from each other, so we spend time together sparingly. We went to Olive Garden since it was close by, and I figured lunch would be a small affair, since Maggie had breakfast a couple hours ago. We have our lunch, and we're having a good time when she says she wants dessert. I told her she shouldn't get dessert because we just had lunch, and she doesn't need to have dessert on top of her lunch. She's always been insecure of her body, but still gets dessert, which makes it worse, so I tried bringing that up, but she ignored me and ordered anyway. I'll admit, I was kind of annoyed after that, and after we left, we argued about it. Maggie told me to back off about her eating habits, but I told her that she's making herself feel worse about her body by eating so much. I feel depressed if I eat more than one meal a day. I don't know how she can eat multiple meals a day and still has the audacity to complain about her body. We argued more and eventually she just left and now she won't speak to me. I'm starting to feel bad for what I said because it obviously hurt Maggie, but at the same time, I don't think I was saying anything wrong. Who is the asshole here? Buddy, eating one meal a day is still technically an eating disorder. Trust me, I used to do snake meal too. That's when you just eat all your calories in one single sitting and call it good. It's not healthy at all. I think I'll leave this one to you guys in the comments. In general, though, if you're curious as to what I believe, I think that she's her own person and she should be allowed to make her own decisions and or mistakes. If she is trying to slim her body down but is actively choosing desserts over that, then that's what makes her happy and she should be allowed to do that. If she wants to make progress towards her weight loss journey, that's something that she needs to actively put the effort in on her own. I also don't want to really get too big into what I'm going through, but recently I had a lot of uncontrolled cortisol due to some pretty stressful things going on in life, and despite them ending, I still needed to get on medication to get my cortisol under control. With my cortisol under control, I've been losing like a couple pounds a week, and beforehand, when my cortisol was fucking through the roof, despite eating only 1,800 calories a day, I was gaining about a pound a week, and that was making me really goddamn uncomfortable. So you never really know what someone's body is going through or what kind of hell their hormones are putting them through because shit can suck and you can definitely try everything in your power to eat healthy but still just not go anywhere with your weight. I'm also not 100% sure if I agree with OP's general interpretation of his sister eating multiple meals a day because that's pretty fucking normal. And it makes OP a very unreliable narrator here because, well, they're coming at this under the assumption that eating one meal a day is healthy and normal, which it's not. They seem revolted by the concept of someone having multiple meals a day, which is normal. And only having one meal a day is just not a healthy way to approach food at all, because not only do when you gorge food like that, you're increasing your appetite, you're also kind of putting yourself in a position where you're going to crash from carbs or from the amount of protein you're consuming, and it's just not good for your body. It's not good for your day-to-day existence. And this is coming from someone who used to partake in snake meal. It's just not good for you. This one is a 3-part saga. Am I the asshole for calling a guy a jerk on his first date? I posted this in another thing, but nobody else there is seeing my problem. In other words, no one's agreeing with him. So, I'm 21 male, and I was out with my girlfriend, 21 female, at a bar, and we run into her good friend from high school, Katie, fake name, with this other guy. She, my friend, knows. John, also fake name. Both are 21 also. Apparently they, John and Katie, both met at my girlfriend's house a few weeks prior when John came to buy something from my girlfriend's dad. My girlfriend is excited to see them both and asks what they're doing there, and they said they're on a date. We all talk for a bit and we end up at a table together. For context, originally the way we sat down was me and John across from each other and closest to the wall. The table was right up against the wall, and the girls were on the outside. And John immediately seems irritated by this arrangement of seating even though he was by the girl he was with. 2 guys were standing next to us after we all sat down. But we all started talking and John puts his hand on Katie's arm and tells her to trade seats with him. Katie did look a little confused, but she started to get up to move, and I told John to stop being such a dick if he wanted his first date to go well. John proceeds to tell me to fuck off and sits down in the seat Katie moved from. About 2 to 3 minutes later, a fight broke out between the two guys mentioned before, and one of them got punched and fell back directly into John. When everything finally got settled, I was like, wow, that was crazy. John looked at me and asked me, "So, am I still a dick? If you had been paying attention to your surroundings, you would have noticed they were arguing before I made her move seats with me. And you would have known that's why I made her move seats with me." And I understand he thinks he's a hero or something, but he didn't make my girlfriend move. He was only worried about that girl. But now my girlfriend is mad at me because she says I was a dick to him. So am I the asshole? Update 1. I posted my story a week ago and everybody called me an asshole, but there's new information. 3 days after the problem at the bar, I was going to work and my girlfriend asked me to stop by Katie's and get something she had borrowed and said Katie knew I was coming by. I get to Katie's apartment and when I go to open the door, it's locked, which it's never been before when my girlfriend and I have gone there. We live in a small town. This isn't unusual to leave your door unlocked, especially during the day. So I ring the doorbell, and who answers the door? John. I asked him what he was doing there and he gave me this stupid smirk and said, "I've been here for 3 days besides work. What are you doing here?" I told him I needed to talk to Katie. He called for Katie, who was, I guess, in the bedroom, and she comes out and brings me what my girlfriend needed. I asked her why the door was locked, and John, who was still in the room for some reason, decided to pipe up and say, "Because I told her she needed to lock it so people don't try to just walk into her apartment like you just tried to do." Katie has never locked that door, or at least if she has, it's not when she knows someone is coming to her house. I told him what Katie does in her own home isn't his business. If he's that worried, he can leave, and he just laughed at me. So once again, he's trying to control Katie, and this time it's in her own house where he has no say. I asked Katie to step outside with me, and she did, and I asked her if she felt safe, and she said she felt safer than she's ever been. But she rolled her eyes when she said it. I left and called my girlfriend to tell her about all this, and she got mad at me again and told me to leave John and Katie alone, but I'm really concerned about Katie's safety. My girlfriend hasn't heard from her in a few days now. I've tried texting her also, but my messages to her won't deliver. New update. Some comments told me to reach out to Katie when I knew John wasn't around, which became hard to do because he was there every day. I passed by her house on the way to work and I can see his car there. But I did manage to stop by 3 times and try to talk to Katie. Katie kept acting nervous when she opened the door, and even more so when I asked her about John. I kept asking her if she felt safe, and she kept saying yes, but really quickly, and would close the door immediately. I tried to talk about this with my now ex-girlfriend, but she got mad and broke up with me. I stopped by Katie's house that same day, and Katie's neighbor said that she had moved out. I asked where she had went, and the neighbor told me that she thinks she's staying with the nice boy who's been staying there. So I guess John managed to convince Katie to cut off all her friends and move in with him. I don't know where John lives, so I have no way of knowing if Katie is safe or not at this point. Their relationship has moved at lightning speed for no reason other than John wants to have her under his complete control. I'm not sure what to do at this point. I just hope Katie is okay. So just for context, these posts took place over a time span of about 3 weeks. And I really cannot stress enough just how dangerous and unhealthy this behavior is, and how much OP cannot seem to understand or realize that they're the problem in this situation. They're the one that's forcing everyone away out of their life. He was so obsessively concerned with Katie's well-being and ignoring the fact that John was probably actually good for Katie that he was willing to self-aggrandize his role of being some form of savior to her and feeling like he was the only one that could save her from John, when in all actuality it sounds like John bruised his ego and masculinity on their double date, and he has been trying to find a reason to prove that John is this villain. And in his misguided quest to prove that John was some kind of villain, he pushed his girlfriend away and made Katie feel unsafe where she lived to the point where she had to move out. And unfortunately, there's a pretty decent chance that OP doesn't even realize that they're doing this. They probably genuinely believe they're in the right here. But there's really only one thing that I actually agree with OP on, and I do hope that Katie is okay, that they were able to get away from OP, because that's fucking scary. Stalkers are not fun. They can definitely change the way that you approach and feel about life on a fundamental level. It is scary. And honestly, one of the more alarming things about this post chain that OP kind of glosses over is the fact that his girlfriend left him because of how obsessed he was with Katie. And the way that he approaches the final update is like it's some kind of new crazy bombshell that Katie had moved out and moved in with John. And OP just completely like glosses over the fact that like, yeah, she's now an ex. And it certainly seems by OP's own admission that his girlfriend broke up with him because of how obsessed he was with Katie. And that's just like an afterthought. It's a single sentence in the final post. I was walking on sunshine after an event, got home, and my wife ruined it for me in one sentence. I just ran an event. It was so meaningful to me. I coach a group of rascals and I brought them to our first competition. It was a major achievement. Nearly everyone was a first-year competitor. Kids were so anxious and excited, and I spent so many hours getting everyone ready. And the logistics of everything pushed me to my absolute limit. It was a labor of love. Every part of it was done with my whole heart. My kids didn't win, and I didn't expect them to. But we fucking tried. And some kids, I had never seen them so happy, even after knowing them for years, outside of literally anything my son has ever done. It was the most meaningful thing that has happened to me in a very long time. It felt good. Cloud 9 over here. I was at the event for 5 hours. I called someone on my ride home and talked for 30 minutes. All smiles. And she yelled at me with excitement and bragged to her husband about my success, and he joined in, all love and praise. I get home late and I'm glad to finally relax. I belly flop onto the bed and do a dramatic sigh. My wife says, "Did you come in from the garage? Is the laundry done?" I say, "I don't know." "Get off the bed. I just washed the sheets." I said, "Okay," and left the room. She followed me and said she didn't know what she did wrong. Asked me if we could start over. I said, "Sure." She told me about her day, said she wants to hear about mine, but she's tired and hopes she will fall asleep soon. "Do you still want to tell me about it?" "No, thanks." The end. That's it. I don't know how to explain it. She knew how important it was. She knew the effort. She knew I was genuinely excited to talk about it. She knew. She knows. And I have so much to say. I loved it. I loved everything about it. There wasn't a thing I feel anything less than happiness about. I could talk for an hour about everything I loved. But my wife didn't even ask. Just told me not to get the sheets dirty. And I wasn't even on the sheets. I was on the comforter. Okay, so your wife was probably upset with something. She snapped at you. She apologized, asked if you wanted to talk about it. You said no, and now you're complaining that you're upset that you weren't allowed to talk about it. Am I not reading the situation properly here? Because I'm definitely a little confused as to both what OP's major issue here is, because he's the one that kind of spurred on the communication issue, and also why this is on AmITheDevil? Actually, wait. It is kind of weird that after the event, he called someone on his ride home, not specifying it was a friend, but someone. Talked for 30 minutes. They have a husband. Why didn't you call your wife? What am I missing here? Like, it's so weird to refer to them as someone. I called someone on my ride home. And like when I was doing the first audio take for this, I definitely got a little bit like caught off guard and stumbled a bit over the wording because I was a little taken aback by it, because it's so weird to call them just someone. Like, I might just be overanalyzing that, but something's going on here, and I feel like it would be entirely speculation on my end, but tinfoil hat. Okay. She asked if he came into the garage and if the laundry was done. Laundry rooms are oftentimes connected to the entryway to the garage. Perhaps she was just asking, hey, was the dryer cycling? Just something simple. She realized she set her husband off and wanted to apologize and probably wanted to try to explain what she meant. That is definitely, I am doing so much generous like lifting work here, but that does at least make sense as to why that line of questioning was there. She also, understandably, because I would get upset about this, gets a little peeved that he, in his sweaty sport clothing, is now sprawled over the bed that she just washed the sheets for. This kind of tells me she may have had a day of doing housework while her husband, of course, was, doing an event. And he was home late by his own admission, so she may have been a little bit frustrated by that. So she realizes she struck a nerve. She tries to apologize. The husband still wants to explain how his day went, but out of pettiness refuses to have any form of communication. And again, I'm still pretty bent out of shape about the someone that he called. If I were to put a tinfoil hat on and be just extremely bad faith here, I think he has a mistress. I think it's two people that are cheating on their spouses with each other, and he's more interested and infatuated with her. He gets home, she's still on his mind, wife is a little bit crabby after a day of doing housework, and he's just checking out of the relationship. That would be my guess. I know that is 100% a massive stretch, but that's where tinfoil hat brain goes. And the reason why is because it wasn't a friend, it wasn't a colleague, it was someone. Very vague wording. It was someone that was important enough to not specify them as a friend, but they didn't want to put more potential blame on themselves by specifying the actual relationship. That's a small theory, but it feels plausible. And again, as I stated previously, after you have an event that is apparently the time of your life, why are you calling this someone first instead of, your wife who's at home doing laundry, doing housework and all that kind of stuff, just to even let her know, hey, I'm gonna be a little bit late. It feels weird. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup. And you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.